And now, for the week of June 26th, Adobe Photoshop TV is on the air.
Welcome to Adobe Photoshop TV from the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And here's your hosts, the Photoshop guys, Scott Kelby, Dave Cross, and Matt Kloskowski.
Welcome to another head-splitting episode of Photoshop TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, the fine folks that bring you Photoshop User Magazine.
Today's episode is also sponsored by Logitech, CDW, iStock, and a brand new sponsor, Strata.
Hey, well, welcome back, everybody. My name is Matt Kloskowski, and in the studio with me today is Mr. Felix Nelson.
Yes, Mr. Felix. I love it when he calls me Mr.
Mr. Creative Director of the NAPP and maker of all things that look cool. So welcome, Felix.
Thanks. I like being here.
As you can see, we are here alone flying the missing man formation, and it's the double missing man formation. It's just me and Felix. Scott Kelby and Dave Cross are not in the studio. And
Gone.
Felix, do you have any idea where they are?
Let me see.
Scott's in Amsterdam.
Scott's definitely in Amsterdam. He's doing some training for Adobe Live.
Adobe Live.
Dave, on the other hand, with the upcoming of Canada Day, I believe Dave is doing an on-site inspection of his cheese curds that he's going to have imported to make his poutine.
Gotcha.
So I'm sure that's where he's at today.
Gotcha. And for those of you that don't know out there, Dave really does make poutine for the whole office on Canada Day.
And poutine is like some weird cheese-fried Canadian-only thing. So if you don't look at it, Google it, and you'll know what it is.
It's not too bad, though. So anyway, you've got me and Felix for the whole show for you. That doesn't mean it's going to be a bad show, because
it's going to be a great show.
It's going to be a great show. So what we've got here is we've got part 2 of our visit with Bert Monroy. Bert is going to take me through a tour of his studio, and then he's also got a tutorial for us. We've got our contests, our giveaways, our news. I brought a tutorial on retouching a nose, and it looks pretty cool. You're gonna laugh at first, but I think the end result actually comes out pretty well. So. And I'm not ready to do it yet. So, Felix, what do you have?
I'm ready. I've got a technique, and actually this is a technique that photographers used to use when they did advertising shots of, like, corporate headquarters, hospitals, buildings, stuff like that, and they'd actually go out and hose down the driveways or the asphalt so they look wet and it looks like it's getting reflections. So I'm going to show you how to do that in Photoshop. So here we go.
Cool.
All right, first of all, you're going to take your image, and we'll go ahead and duplicate. We want to duplicate 2 layers. So let's go ahead and just drag it into new layer icon. Let's do that twice. And it'd be nice if it actually wanted to duplicate.
Photoshop always breaks when you're doing things in front of people.
Yeah, it really wants to work well. All right, it doesn't want to duplicate more than once.
Command J.
There we go. Now we're working. All right, we're going to go to this top layer, and you want to press Command T or PC Control T to bring up the free transforms box. And we're going to flip this upside down because we want the reflection to be down at the bottom. So just control click or right click on a PC right in the center, and let's choose flip vertical, and flips it upside down. Now I'm going to do, while I have the free transform box active, I'm going to lower the opacity. Let's move my palette over so you can see. I'm going to drop it to 50% just so that we can see what's kind of back behind there. Now I'm going to take that and just move it down, and you're going to try and line up just the bottom of the building that you're going to try to reflect. So right now, it's just the very bottom of this little row right here, and we're going to try and line that up with the rest of the house there. That's pretty close. Now, I want to skew it down there a little bit, and let's open up this window. I'm going to grab the center adjustment point, hold down the Command key or the Control key on a PC, and the Shift key, and I'm just going to skew it straight down so that this end kind of lines up with it. So once you get it close, just hit Return, and we'll bring the opacity back up to 100%. Now we're going to add the water reflection to this part of it, and we'll mask this out in a second, but let's go ahead and go under Filter, under Distort, and choose Wave. Now, it'll take a minute for that dialog box to come up, but the settings I've applied in here are pretty specific to this technique, and the big thing to remember, you don't want it to make the wave or make the effect vertically. You want it to do it only horizontally. So you can see down here we've moved the vertical scaling almost down to nothing. It won't let you go down to 0. It'll only let you go down to 1. But we want as minimum as possible. The rest of the settings you're just going to have to play around with until you find something that's good for the technique in this little preview box. So let's hit OK. Now we've got our wave. It looks a little bit intense. So we're just going to go under Edit, and choose Fade Wave, and it'll fade just any of the filters you've applied, and let's just drop that down a bit to maybe like 60 or 50%. Just kind of eyeball it. Let's hit OK. So we've softened the effect a little bit. Now, we want to get rid of all this stuff up here. So we're just going to make a layer mask and choose the brush from the toolbar, and we'll just start painting away this area that you don't want to exist. Let me move this out of the way just so you can see what's back here. And we're going to paint it till we get down to the just below where the building is, where the road's actually coming into it. And if you paint too much or paint away too much, it's nothing to worry about. Just go ahead and hit X. It'll switch the foreground color to white, and just paint back in those areas that you want back in your image. So we've got that. Now the next thing you want to do is take this layer and you want to put it on overlay and drop the opacity down to like 50%. And let's drop that down like that. Now the top's starting to look like it's kind of watery, and that's the effect you want. But you want the stuff that's underneath it, the ground that's actually underneath the photograph, to look like it's wavy as well. So we'll just click on the second copy that we made and just hit Command F to apply the filter. But we don't want to do it to the whole thing. We want to do it to just the bottom.
No, that looked good.
That looked great. It's nothing better than a wavy house on the top. Actually, you want to select the bottom part of it, so I just chose the lasso tool from the toolbar, get the bottom part just where the driveway is or the parking lot, then press Command F, and it just applies the filter just underneath there. Now, once again, it looks a little bit too intense, so we'll just go back under File, or Edit, I'm sorry, and choose Fade Wave, Command Shift F, and let's lower that opacity a little bit. And then just in a few steps, we'll put Deselect. We go from a completely dry driveway to nice and wet and watery reflections. And that's it. Well, and that technique also works well on other things. I mean, if you want to put a car on a road with a watery road, you can select the car and also make the road water. So it works well on other things as well.
Very cool, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you.
Mr. Nelson.
Mr.
See, I keep
Nelson.
calling you Mr. Nelson.
Great.
So one more thing, I'm actually going to save us some emails, I think, is when you go under Edit Fade, a lot of people don't know that if you do anything else after that filter, that fade goes away. If you make a little selection, fade goes away and you can't do it anymore. So just kind of keep that in mind out there. As soon as you run that filter, you have to do Edit Fade, or it's gone forever.
Yeah, and actually I've had that same problem where I've tried to do Edit Fade after you've made a mask. Won't work. Won't work.
Yep. All right, so we have got part 2 of my trip out to Mr. Burt Monroy's house. And for those of you that saw last week's show, we had an interview with Burt, and he kind of just talked a little bit about his creative process. Well, he also took me for a tour of his studio, and then he actually gives us a quick tip right after it. So with no further ado, let's go visit Mr. Burt Monroy again.
So hi, Burt here. Welcome to my home. I'll take you for a little walk. Let's go up to my studio, see where I live all day. Come on. Let's go for a little short walk. It's been a beautiful day today in California. Haven't had too many of those this winter. It's raining like crazy, but right now it's really nice up here. But this is where I spend most of my life. I got a house down there, but this is where I live. Come on in. And this is my little cubby hole. I sit here and I play. This is my little Cintiq and all my stuff. And you can see the dents in the chair where I pretty much park myself all day long and just kind of live here. And many times I'll forget that it's I have to leave it sometimes, and it gets dark outside. I don't even realize it, and it's nighttime, and it's home. Okay, so what do I got here? I got the dual 2.5 gigahertz G5. It's fully loaded with RAM, and I've got a bunch of drives, redundant drives, and different arrays behind this cabinet here. I've got this Cintiq. I've got this Sony Artisan monitor, which I use as my secondary monitor, where all the tools are. If I was to go into Photoshop, and you would see that on the second monitor over here, we'll have all the different tools. There's the tools and the palettes and all the stuff I need. And there's a secondary machine over here and another slave station over there, which I use for scanning and rendering of animations and stuff like that. And there are stations down in the house as well. And this is where I live. However, it's all going to change, hopefully very soon. The wall that you're looking at right this minute is going to be pushed out about 9 feet. So hopefully I get a little more room that I desperately need, because it's gotten kind of tight in here. So now that we're here, why don't we do something? Let me show you a little trick. I'm going to create a little flock of birds. Since we have such a beautiful day, let's create a little flock of birds. I'm going to get my paintbrush over here. And I'm going to get a size brush. Let's go with about a 5. That's a good size. I'm going to create this little shape like that. Just a little arc. And another arc on this side, which I'm going to thicken up a little bit. Just give it a little thickness on one side. So now I have this little shape like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there and select that. And turn that into a brush. Define brush preset. Click OK. I can throw it away now, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my paintbrush, and I'm going to get my brush engine. So I'm going to bring that in here. And I'm going to select the brush I just created, which is way down here. Now we can see I get this long strip happening here. So what I'm going to do, right off the bat, is go into scattering. And scatter those little birds in all kinds of directions here. Both directions that are going all over the place. Increase the count a little bit, so I get a few more little birds. I'm going to jump back here to Shape Dynamics and set the angle to just a little bit of an angle jitter, just enough so I get a little variety going on there, just a little bit. A little size jitter going on, so I get little ones and large ones, all different kinds of little birds. Then I'm going to jump down here to Color Dynamics and set it up between foreground and background, 100% jitter, and a little saturation, a little brightness, and a little hue. Just a little bit added to that configuration. So now, I can get rid of my brush engine, and let's pick some colors. I'm going to get a nice dark gray for my foreground color, and for my background color, I'll pick a much lighter gray. And then I come in here and we'll make the brush a little bit smaller, because right now we see that it's a pretty large looking bird. So there we go. I have this nice little bird going on here, and I just go in here and I get this nice flock of birds just flying across the screen there.
Well, once again, thank you very much to Burt Monroy for allowing me to come in and invade his home. We really do appreciate it, and I know all the Photoshop TV viewers appreciate it.
And Burt's a great guy, too.
Hey, yeah, he didn't appreciate it. I have to say, it was pretty funny because he had to do a radio interview, and he said it was going to take like 15 minutes. And he's like, just check your email on the couch. I'm sitting on this couch an hour and 15 minutes later. I'm like all propped up on his couch. He's still on the phone with the interview.
Drinking all his beer and eating all his food.
It was funny. He's a great guy, though. So thank you very much to Burt. All right, well, we've got my tutorial on retouching. We've also got our contest and prizes and all kinds of cool stuff. But first, a small message. So we'll be back in 30 seconds.
Strata 3D CX. Design at a higher power. Add the power of 3D to your Adobe workflow. Link to Photoshop textures. Import Illustrator artwork. Render to layered Photoshop files. Create photoreal images. Strata 3D CX. Design at a higher power. Visit strata.com.
Welcome back. My name is Matt Kloskowski, and again with me, Mr. Felix Nelson, creator of all things that look cool.
Thank you. So, hey, Matt. That tour with Burt was excellent. I mean, that was cool.
He's got a cool studio.
He really does,
and he's getting it kind of all rebuilt too.
I'm
it's pretty
a
nice.
huge fan of Burt. But I'm sure there's other fans, people that want to see more of Burt out there. It's got to be at least
just
one,
you.
maybe two other people. Where can we see more of Burt?
Yeah, Burt's actually he's got his own tour. It's called the Creativity Tour. So you can catch Burt out on the road if you do want to go see Burt, which Felix is not the only one. Trust me. If you do want to go see Burt, you can catch him. He is in Pittsburgh on July 17th and North Carolina on August 28th. So go catch Burt. Don't forget that our own Photoshop TV co-host, Mr. Dave Cross, is also out with his Power Tour. So you can always catch Dave. He's actually, the next show is in Indianapolis on August 22nd. And don't forget that Ben Wilmore and Deke McClellan also are out there. So you can go to photoshopseminars.com if you want to find out any of that information. So I guess it's turn for my tutorial.
You got to do something cool.
I've got to do something cool. All right.
Step it up to the plate.
So I've got this iStock photo, and I promise you, I did not do anything to the photo.
That is an iStock photo you have there. Whoa.
I didn't retouch it, so I got this straight off of iStock. And as you can see, we could probably stand to fix the nose here a little bit. So we start off with the lasso tool. And what you want to do is just make a very rough selection around the nose here. Don't worry too much about the top area. I can just click and drag and select. As you get toward the bottom, you don't want to select too much of the mouth here, so just try to avoid that area.
Do you need like a 20-inch screen to make the selection on this particular image, or is this? Are you okay with that one?
Okay, be nice.
just asking.
All right, so the next thing we want to do is feather this selection. So I'm going to go to Select. I'm going to choose Feather. And if you're using a low-res photo, try a 25-pixel feather. If it's high-res, you might want to try 50 to 60 pixels. And click OK. And then we want to take this selection of the nose and put it onto its own layer, but we want to copy it. So what I'm going to do here is press Control-J on the PC, Command-J on the Mac, and if I hide the background, you can see now our nose is on another layer by itself here. All right, so the next thing we want to do is actually make the nose smaller. So I'm going to go to the Edit menu, go down to Free Transform, and I'm going to hold down the Alt or the Option key and watch what happens. I'm going to bring this right side in, and you'll see the left side starts to go in as well. And we don't want to do huge changes here, okay? There's no
It's Michael Jackson. That's good.
We don't want to do anything huge here. We just want to bring it in a little and just very subtly start to just narrow the nose a little bit. And depending on how much space is between here and the mouth, you can bring the bottom up, but you're going to start to show the bottom, the original nose here. So you have to be careful there. So you don't want to go up too high with it. When you're done, just press the Enter key. Now, looks pretty good, but there's a couple of problem areas, and we can see that I still have, there's some texture in the skin here that shouldn't be there. So the way we fix it is I'm going to create a new blank layer, because I like to do my retouching on a blank layer if possible. And then go select the healing brush from the toolbox and make sure Sample All Layers is selected up here. And what that's going to let me do is, even though I'm working on a blank layer, it's going to let me sample from the photo below. Now hold down your Alt or your Option key and click in an area that has some clear skin, and then just paint over any of the areas that you need to fix here. Do the same thing on this side. Alt or Option, click to sample, and then just click and paint. You can see Photoshop blends in that area here. If you need to bring back some of that original skin texture, we did it on its own layer. So now I could always just drop that opacity down to about 60% to just show a little of the original skin texture. That's pretty much it. We've narrowed the nose here, and at this point, if you look at the before and the after, you can see we've made a subtle but a very realistic change to the nose here, and it really does improve the photos.
That works really well.
And to show you that I'm not just picking on other people, because God knows that I do not have the smallest nose in the world. Here is my before photo unretouched, and I did the same trick here. There's my photo. And then,
my God, that's a huge nose, man. That's crazy.
And then here is the retouched version of it. So it works on a lot of different photos and really helps give you a nice little retouched effect on a nose. So we've got some nap news for everybody out there. The first bit of news is Photoshop TV is now Photoshop TV is still free to watch every week. Past episodes are now, NAP members get past episodes for free. So you can go to the NAP member website. You can always get the previous shows for free. If you're not a NAP member, you can still always get the previous shows. It just costs $1.99.
So how long do you have to get the current show?
The current show, as I said, is still free. You watch it every single week, and you've got the entire week. So it comes out on Monday, and you've got until next Monday to watch the show and have at it. So it's still a free show. It's just the past shows. So if you're a NAP member, you always go to the NAP member website,
get them for free. That's awesome.
And again, if you're not a NAP member, just go to Photoshop TV. If you want to see any of the past episodes, there's a link on the right-hand side, and it says past episodes there. You can go see. There's a little overview of each show in there.
Great.
Some other quick NAP news here is NAP, we've just revamped the portfolio. So NAP members get a free portfolio. So essentially, the whole code, everything's been rewritten. The portfolio is basically new from scratch, and you get to put up your photos. Now, as a NAP member, you can put up all your photos.
Right.
But you can give the link to anybody else out there.
And they can see your
and they
portfolio.
can see it. So it's a good way. So if you're thinking about going out there and paying to get a portfolio online, that's a free benefit of that membership.
Now, if you've created a portfolio before now, it doesn't affect anything, still works the
No,
same?
your old portfolios, we ported all the images over.
Great.
Everything still works fine, so it's no problems. Some of the new features are commenting. People can
good.
comment on your images. There's favorites. You can turn on and turn off commenting. There's a lot of individual customization features.
Wow.
So pretty cool thing. So go check it out. All right, what do we got, Mr. Nelson?
What do we have? Let's see. Let's go.
Oh no.
Let's go to. Do we have some industry news?
Oh yes, we have
All
news. So I'm going to race over to the Storm Team News Center.
All right.
It's Photoshop News from the Action News Storm Team with Matt Kluskowski. He's rocking the house key.
Welcome back to the news this week. As always, our news is sponsored by Peach Pit Press. If you go to www.peachpit.com/PhotoshopTV, you'll see that there's a book special there each week. Now, you can order this book, 35% off and free shipping inside the U.S., so go check it out at peachpit.com. Well, first up this week is the big news. Adobe has released Lightroom Beta 3. Now, among some of the new features and improvements are import and export options, live comparisons of your image adjustments in before and after previews, a straightening tool, as well as a brand new web module with HTML and Flash export options. Also, if you're a Windows user, don't forget that Adobe said Lightroom Beta was coming out for Windows users in the summer of 2006. So I don't know about you, but summer of 2006 is here, so hopefully we will see a beta for Windows very shortly. Next up, Photo Frame 3 has been released for Photoshop. It's a Photoshop plugin from On1 software, and it has edge effects and border effects for your photos. So you can go find out more at on1software.com. Next up, Artlandia releases Symmetry Shop 1.0. This is a plugin. It's actually comes from a plugin called Symmetry Works, which is a popular pattern plugin for Adobe Illustrator. Well, now they've released Symmetry Shop, which is also a pattern design plugin for Photoshop, and it's a good way to make easy and automatic plugins. So you can go to www.artlandia.com for more information on it. Well, that's it for the news this week. Back to the show right after a quick word from our sponsors.
Hey, I sure hope you're enjoying this episode of Photoshop TV. You know, the reason we started Photoshop TV was to give people a taste of what NAP, the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, is all about. And the Photoshop guys are 3 of our trainers, but there are a bunch more trainers. There's lots more training, all kinds of things. You can discover about the National Association of Photoshop Professionals at PhotoshopUser.com. If you're serious about design, if you're serious about photography, if you're serious about Photoshop, you need to belong to NAP. And this is just the beginning of what NAP is all about at PhotoshopTV.com. So go to PhotoshopUser.com, and I have a special just for viewers of Photoshop TV, and that's you get a free extra month if you sign up for a year. Send me an email, lbecker@PhotoshopUser.com, and tell me you want to sign up, and I'll arrange an extra month for you. That's it. Back to Photoshop TV.
Well, welcome back once again. And my name is Matt Kluskowski, again here with me,
Mr. Felix Nelson.
Nelson, just in case you forgot. So I think we have contest time, Felix.
Let's do it.
Let's do the contest. So I guess we have to talk about the contest question from last
What was the
week.
contest
The
question?
contest question was, what was the keyboard shortcut? So if you choose Edit Fill, that brings up the Fill dialog box. The question was, there's a keyboard shortcut that does that as well. And it's not F5. F5 is what's listed in the menu, but there's another one. So the answer is Shift, Delete, or Backspace was our acceptable answer.
Just need really wide hands.
Yes.
Backspace.
So congratulations to said name that will magically pop up on the bottom of the screen right now. All right, so let's talk a little bit about next week's contest. Next week, let's talk a little about the prizes.
What are we giving away?
We are giving away Photoshop TV, Best of Photoshop TV DVD. So if you like watching Photoshop TV and you like the tutorials, this DVD, all of it. No jokes, no funny stuff,
just all Photoshop TV all the time.
There might be some bad jokes inside the tutorials, but there's no commercials, none of that stuff, just the DVD. We also have Mr. Scott Kelby's Photoshop for Digital Photographers book. So Scott can't be here today, but I'm sure he would sign it if he was here, and he will sign it after we get the winner. So you get Scott's book as well. Thank you, Scott. And you also get a 1-year subscription to Layers magazine. So
it's amazing how Scott just appears when you mention his name, just kind of floats up from the depths.
He does. All right, so we need our contest question. Do we have a contest question?
Do we have one? I don't know. What is the contest question?
I have the contest question. The contest question is, what does the keyboard shortcut Shift, Control, or Command on a Mac and the letter D do?
Shift, Command, D.
Shift, Command, or Control, and D. So what does that do? It doesn't have to be a long explanation. It's probably going to be pretty short, but just send that in. So Felix, how do they enter the contest?
How do they enter? I'm not really sure how they enter the contest, but I know this from the last time I was on the show. You can only enter one time. So that's it, just once.
Felix, we very, very quickly script out, and when I say script out, we quickly say, you do this, I'll do this, you do this. And Felix really wasn't supposed to do that.
Yeah, and my memory's about that short because I'm old, and so
I just wanted to see what would happen when I asked him. If you go to PhotoshopTV.com, there's an area on the right-hand side. It says Contest Entry. Just click that and send in your answer. Obviously, you can only send it in one time. So send in your answers, and we will randomly pick a winner.
All right.
All right, well, that's about it for this show. As you know, whenever we leave a show, we like to give people 3 things to do to kind of keep busy before the next week's show.
To-do list.
The to-do list. So the first one is Terry White's Creative Suite podcast. Now, I mention it for a couple reasons. Number one, it's moved, so I'll give you the URL. Number one, it's moved.
That'd be good.
Number two, it's a Creative Suite podcast, and we get tons of questions on people asking us if we'll do a Creative Suite podcast. No, because Terry White already does it. And the last one is Terry's just a good all-around guy. So go check out Terry's Creative Suite podcast. You can catch it at creativesuitepodcast.com. It's at Terry White.
And there's another website you can go to if you want more Photoshop tutorials. It's drphotoshop.com, dr-photoshop.com. They've got a bunch of cool stuff on there, so go check them out.
Very cool. And the last one is Design Tools Monthly. So this is actually a monthly publication. It's called Design Tools, and it's got just all about design. So it's kind of geared a lot toward the Mac, but I'm a PC user for the most part, and I still read it because it's still got a ton of stuff in there. And I actually got to meet Jay Nelson at Mac Live a couple months ago. Jay is just the nicest guy in the
My cousin, cousin Jay.
He's just the nicest guy in the world, and he does an excellent job. So it's Design Tools Monthly. Well, that's about it for this show. On behalf of myself, Matt Kloskowski,
and Felix Nelson.
Mr. Felix Nelson, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks for watching Adobe Photoshop TV. See you next week.